Hello you, it's me. Today we're going to talk about Sealskin by Sue Bristow, which won the Exeter Novel Prize in 2013. I picked this up because it's a Selkie book. They're probably my favourite piece of UK mythology slash folklore. I'll read anything with even a sniff of Selkie in it. This was quite a short book. There probably will be some spoilers in the review after I do the plot rundown. I'll mark everything on the time bar. This was a very short fairy tale style book, so it's going to be a short review. I do have to say before we begin, content warning for sexual assault and rape. I will be touching on these aspects of the book in the review. The book's set in the Hebrides, a group of islands to the west of Scotland, of mainland Scotland, in a small fishing village. Our main character we follow, a young man called Donald, lives with his mother, works as a crabber because he's ostracised by the other boys, doesn't feel safe going out on the sea. He's checking all his crab pots one day, and across a small stretch of water sees seals come out of the beach, shrug off their skins, revealing their Selkie form as naked, beautiful women. They run into the heather to play. He sneakily rows across, grabs one of the skins, hides it under a rock. The women see him, grab their skins, dive back into the ocean, all but one, who's frantically searching around for her skin, naked, shivering in the cold. So what does he do? He rapes her on the beach. Like, within 6 pages of the book opening. And then he's like, shush, I'll take care of you. Takes her home in his boat, tells his mum what's happened. And she's like, okay, you got to deal with this now, you're going to have a baby in 9 months. So she has to live with us, also you have to marry her. So over the course of the next 9 months, she's mute, I should say, she never speaks. The Selkie becomes more and more attached to the family, eventually displaying love and care for essentially her rapist, and wanting to have another child with him after the first child is born. She studies the medicine ways of Donald's mum, and the rest of the village suspect she's some kind of witch. This book follows what happens leading up to and immediately following the birth of the children, and the death of Donald's old mum. I can't really say much more than that without spoiling the story. So let's jump straight into what I thought about it. Before we even get into the story aspect of it at all, the pacing of this book is so weird. And the chapter arrangement had me like, you had some chapters where it would be multiple months had passed between chapters, and then you had others where it would end a chapter halfway through a conversation, and then start the chapter following with the next line of the conversation. This was something that made it really weird to read. It felt like the story kept stopping and starting. Super odd. Secondly, the Selkie, who they name Mary, they never know her real name, they just call her Mary, doesn't speak for the entire book, totally just acquiesces to everything people ask of her, does as she's told the whole time, and I feel like the only reason she exists in the story is as a reminder to the main character of what he did, and is more a symbol than an actual character. There's also a lot of wife beating in the story that everybody turns a blind eye to. Lots of problematic behaviour in this book. I also don't know how realistic the relationship between them is, with her eventually starting to love him, to care for him. Is she doing this genuinely or out of fear for her own safety and the safety of her children? She definitely does it because she thinks she's never going to go home, because when she's presented with an escape route, she freaking takes it straight away. Because of the immediate actions of the main character Donald right at the start of the story, it made it almost impossible to sympathise with him at all. Like, he's getting the stuffing beaten out of him by the other guys, and I'm just reading it like, good. When he takes the Selkie home to his mum, immediately she's like, yeah, she's a Selkie, this checks out. And when he sees them on the rocks, he immediately knows how their magic works. So they're an accepted thing. So I find it kind of odd that when a beautiful woman appears in the village, can't speak English, is sort of bearing a child for one of the fishermen, nobody else was like, Selkie maybe? I feel like in a community as superstitious as fishermen, a lot of people would probably have jumped to that conclusion. It's fairly formulaic as a Selkie story. It's not an interesting spin on it. It plays out exactly as normal, doesn't try and do anything different. So there's quite a predictable anticlimactic ending. When you flesh out a 3-page fairy tale, you really have to fill that space with something good. Fill it with character development, or gorgeous scenic descriptions of the Scottish islands, or the changing seasons on a storm-racked shore. Not just a boring character that whinges their way through the book. This is probably the least good Selkie book I've read, and the fact that it's a Selkie book is the only thing stopping it from having been a 1 star. The only thing that's really interesting is how ambiguous the period setting was. They make reference to so few cultural things. This could have been set in 1910, this could have been set in the 1600s. There's no way to know. I was thinking this story might be about Stockholm Syndrome, maybe about what would happen to somebody if they were forced every day to live with the consequences of their actions. But then when she left in the end, I thought maybe it's a novel about how sometimes, no matter how much you repent and are sorry, it's never going to be enough. It's never going to fix it for the other person. So maybe just don't do the bad thing in the first place. 2 stars for this book, and I feel like that's pretty generous. So that's pretty much it. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to follow me on Goodreads. Both linked down below. Don't forget to join our Interstellar Sci-Fi Book Club if that's your jazz, which I'll link down below as well. Like and subscribe. More reviews coming thick and fast to read pretty quick. And I'll see you next time for the next review. Bye.